has a lot of resources, but it's just so annoying for Terran to have to deal with this because State's been able to constantly pressure the Ghost outside the natural. A few get picked off immediately, and Xenocider does another stim, but State just has to back off because there's no medevacs left.
Time Warp goes down as well. This is... State is, as you said, strangling his opponent out here. The double drop play was absolutely fantastic. Xenocide is just trying to stay in the game right now, and he is down in supply. He is down in pretty much everything at this stage, and I think State now has the army to just kill him outright.
Yeah, and he's even got resources where he can kind of reinforce really easily. Look at these DTs going into the third base. Gonna do a massive amount of damage. Again, scans are gonna hurt Xenocider because he can't scan onto the main army.
But he took 2 out with the EMP, which is really nice, but there's another EMP going down. Those are EMPs that he can't use on those Archons, which are coming right behind him. It was a trap! The Archons are right at the front. Double Time Warp goes down. Storm on the back. Xenocide. Oh my god, that was horrible to watch. Oh, State, you evil person. The only... that might be Xenocider, but I gotta say, State is committing genocide right now against Terran. That was a sneaky play. It really, really was. And it was great to watch as well. Drawing his opponent's army out of position, comes in, double Time Warp, Archons at the front, Storm kills the Terran army like 2 seconds flat. Ouch.
State just absolutely devastated his opponent there. It was just like you were saying, you know, I really thought he didn't have any scan energy left, so it looks like he had to use EMPs. No EMPs for the army. It doesn't even really matter, to be honest, because Xenocider still had 160 supply, but that army was so fragile. They had 2 stims on them. The 3 medevacs were working double shift overtime without extra pay, and they still couldn't even tend to all the hurt units. Very well done by State, picking his opponent apart. That was kind of what I was expecting from Xenocider, the way he was controlling all points of his opponent's bases. But instead, Xenocider was playing really defensive, and we saw moments where his armies were running back and forth on move command because he couldn't decide whether he wanted to position them to fight or to run away.
That was tough. That was definitely a tough fight, but State is... wow. Like, that was a dominant performance there by State. He takes his group 4-1. Very convincing play, and he is now through to the round of 8, where he will face off against Hello Kitty.
Oh, well, that's going to be an interesting PvP for sure. Don't know how to predict that way, but State has pretty good PvP, and I wish him good luck. But no one can really underestimate Hello Kitty nowadays, just because everyone knows what he's capable of.
Indeed. Now, we have QXC versus RSVP in the losers match, and the winner of these guys will go on to face Xenocider in the final match, and then they get to play Kane. What a reward!
Defeat one of the hardest Terran players in the world after you defeat your opponent into play with one of the best Zergs in North America. That's going to be really tough, man, but this is kind of what it is. It's getting to the last couple of players in North America that have really proven their worth on ladder.
No question. That was impressive. I am a State fan now. What can I say? I'm big into that. That was really good. And now we're going to see whether or not Xenocider can, of course, stick around in the final match and beat the winner of RSVP and QXC. We didn't really get a chance to see anything from RSVP. He got taken apart pretty quickly by Xenocider. Now I think we're going to see him be able to flex his muscles, but I don't think QXC is very pleased, and I have a feeling he is going to go all in on this one, and he is going to attempt to smash his opponent just to convince people, yeah, I'm really, really good, guys. Don't underestimate me, man. It's really a very bad idea.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think QXC's got a lot of cool builds under his belt. We haven't seen his hyper-aggressive side just yet, but when it does, I guarantee you it is a sight to behold.
It'll hit pretty hard. All right, folks, we're going to go into the next match as soon as we've got it set up. You are watching SHOUTcraft America. Thank you very much for watching. And RSVP versus QXC right after the break. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to SHOUTcraft America, and we've got our next set of contestants on the line for you right here. They're going to be talking a little bit about the tournament so far and, of course, what's going on. So, RSVP, welcome back to the show.
Glad to be back.
Now, you had a bit of a rough time against Xenocider there. What do you think went wrong?
Well, I mean, of course he played really well, but I don't think I was able to I don't know if it was nerves or I just wasn't really prepared, but I don't think I was able to show what I can do that game, or those games.
Okay, well, here's an opportunity to do that against QXC. Now, you were able to take game one pretty convincingly, Kevin, and that was as a result of the Oracle play just flat out falling on its face. Then you did run into a couple of problems in game 2 and 3. Do you want to walk us through how that went down?
Game 2, that build that I've done is usually pretty successful, but most Protosses are kind of dumb, so they try and defend their third, and then the game ends. Like, if it doesn't matter, it doesn't really matter who you are. Like, if you try and defend your third against that, you're just going to die, because it's just so much supply so early in the game. And he made a good decision to back up, and at that point, I don't know, my play got a little flustered and didn't really work out. And game 3, I think all in all, I was just kind of taken aback by how passive he plays, because I watched the replays, and there are certain points in the game where it's just like, well, if I just go home and build an army, then I'm at a huge advantage. Like game 3, my third was done, and he hadn't even started his third. I had more SCVs, better economy. Like, it's just a strategic shift.
Yeah, we noticed it was very unusual. We were trying to dissect it, and we came to this conclusion that, I mean, the number of observers that States builds is very out of the ordinary. It leaves open some windows for harass, and then, of course, as you were saying, that later third would have given you an advantage there. But everyone, it seems, was caught out by State's play, and he advances as first in the group, and you guys are competing, of course, to play against Xenocider. Now, QXC, have you had a chance to play much against RSVP?
No, I actually can't remember the last time we played.
All right, well, this could be very interesting then. It's going to be difficult to predict for either of us. RSVP, do you have any words for QXC going into this matchup?
Just go have fun.
Excellent. And QXC?
I'll see you soon, Xenocider.
All right, guys, thank you very much to your stations, and we will get a chance to see you guys rock it very, very shortly indeed. Now, Frodan, I have no idea what to expect here, because, again, we didn't see... I don't think we saw a bad QXC, but as you said, like, he wasn't really prepared for State's style, which was very, very passive. Now he goes up against RSVP, and we really don't know RSVP's style at all, honestly, because we just haven't seen enough of him.
Yeah, and I would say that RSVP is a very technical Protoss just because of the strategies he tries to execute require very precise timings, and actually, to be honest, it requires really strong execution compared to a passive style, which is kind of like, I'm just going to continue to macro, I'm going to continue to scout and just wait for him to attack into me. A complete shift of ideas. And I think QXC's original series that he played against State, that kind of playstyle would work a lot better against RSVP than against someone like State.
Yeah, I think so. We'll see if RSVP can adapt to it, or indeed whether or not we actually see a shift from QXC. I think maybe, having heard what he said, he will most likely attempt to do the same thing again. Because he doesn't seem to think that it was bad, and I don't disagree with him. He just seems to think that it was the wrong thing to do against State.
Yeah, and it's really funny that he even brought up talking about taking a faster third and, you know, being a little bit more defensive and letting State make the first move. And in Protoss versus Terran, it's always the attacker that has a little bit of a harder time to go into it. You know, it's hard for Protoss to attack into EMPs and positioned Vikings, or even vice versa. It's hard for Terran to attack into well-positioned Storms as well as Colossus that can be anchored by the Zealots. So all this really depends upon how QXC is able to adjust to his opponent. I want to see if RSVP is going to play a little bit more straight up instead of a little bit more tricky, though, because last time we saw him, he just kept doing really interesting, devious builds.
Yes. I want to see devious, I really do, and I also want to see smart play from QXC because, of course, he is very, very good at that. But we are ready to kick it off. It's going to be on Akalon Wastes, and here we are. Well, let's see how this one goes. I'm intrigued. Will we see the QXC that we know and love, or will RSVP be able to pull out a surprise here? We'll find out as we go into this game. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Akalon Wastes. Welcome to lag, which is apparently being caused by Crass. What's Crass doing in here, actually? That's a bit weird.
Well,
Crass is a European player. Yeah, I guess
there.
Craft is a caster now. Okay, good to know. Yeah, NRS is that's a new Rosoft.
Seems to be the new trend.
Yeah, I don't really blame them considering. Anyway, Akalon Waste, northwest position in the red trunks, playing Terran. It is the one and only
Complexity QXC
versus his opponent to the southeast position, who has a lot to prove here, I think. This could be a really nice breakout tournament for him, but his performance against Xenocider was not up to scratch. Let's see if he can improve from here. He is
RSVP.
Now, RSVP, last time we were on this map, went for a Dark Templar drop. That was happening earlier in the day, so if you're tuning in from WCS Europe, because I know it's about to wrap up, RSVP played against Xenocider, tried to go for a hidden Dark Templar shrine around the 12 o'clock position, and then consequently was not able to do much damage because Xenocider had an early engineering bay. Now, QXE is really good against those styles, but I also want to emphasize that if you don't do damage with a build like that, you can still follow up really well. You just have to not commit with the DTs, and RSVP has to be a little bit quicker. We were talking about his response time, not just to drops, but even with his Warp Prism. If you see Marines running to your Warp Prism, get the hell out of there. Save that Warp Prism, because that's the only thing stopping Terran from hesitating and turning back as opposed to pushing your base.
very, very true. Now, what I like here from QXC is the 12 gas. We may very well see that Reaper that we haven't seen this entire series so far, and it gives him so many aggressive options potentially against a player like RSVP. So, definite change up here from QXC that went command center first every... Oh, what? What? RSVP drops a pylon to prevent the complete wall off. I have no idea why you would do that, but it was funky regardless.
He doesn't want to lose the probe, man.
Yeah.
Every single probe is very precious in the sight of RSVP.
Yeah, I guess so. The RSVP can...
This is nice, though. He's going for second barracks.
Sneaky. Really sneaky.
Like, what makes it so sneaky, TB, is that it's after the probe is already scouted, and he thinks he knows exactly what he's going to do. This is a very nice mind game set up by QXC.
Yeah, and that pylon was a really odd thing, I suppose, but it was a neat trick, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't obviously going to be turned into anything. Regardless, very well could see double Reaper play here. You can certainly do that on one base, and it can be pretty effective to do significant damage to Protoss, but once you start to get a couple of Stalkers out, you're not going to do a huge amount with it. I have to wonder if we will see something thrown down on either of these barracks after this Reaper comes out.
Yep, and the magic number, in my opinion, is 3, because 3 Reapers can just completely destroy one Stalker.
Yep.
And you should be able to get 3 by the time the second one comes out and really pick your opponent apart, especially considering that RSVP also skipped his first Zealot, so he doesn't have as much tanking damage as he can as possible. Now, QXC didn't do anything like start a bunker next to the Nexus, because that could also just give away his strategy completely. So I like that QXC is completely masking what he wants to do. Of course, with double Barracks Reapers, you can still expand. It's just that your gas expenditures are all dedicated to this. So if QXC isn't able to do too much damage, he is going to suffer a little bit in the mid game because of it.
Yeah, I like the fact that he's showing 2 Reapers here, and he may poke him with the 2 Reapers and say, yeah, I got 2 Reapers. What, of course, is going to be surprising is 4. Now, this SCV is most likely going to try and put down a bunker, but 2 Reapers, of course, versus 2 Stalkers with the SCV in there is a difficult prospect indeed. That SCV is definitely dead, so we're not going to be seeing a bunker coming in, but that has done significant damage to those Stalkers. 4 Reapers can kill, I think, those 2 Stalkers, considering the amount of damage that was done there, but if he lets the shields regenerate, that's not going to happen. But he's going to go in just before the shields really start to kick in again. Focus fire on this. That was definitely not what RSVP was expecting. Down goes 1 Stalker, second one going down as well here.
Uh-oh, this is already starting to snowball a little bit out of control, because these 4 Reapers can pretty much almost collectively 2-shot the probe, and that's just going to make RSVP unable to mine down the lower ground. This is a very good decision from RSVP to just pull his probes immediately from the natural base.
Yeah, there's going to be enough Stalkers. I mean, once there's 3 Stalkers on the map, that should be fine, but QXC is going to deny mining, which is great because his slightly later command center is actually now something that's putting him ahead, simply because of those Reapers. He's now going to deploy a Widow Mine, and he's bringing the Starport into play as well. Completely different style from QXC this time.
Maybe QXC was listening to the other series cast saying how he didn't see any Reapers or Widow Mines. In this case, he's making both.
Both of them.
And I like the early one just because, again, RSVP plays a little bit peculiar, relatively speaking. You can see that he went from 1 gate robo into a 2nd gate.
Yeah.
Now, you can kind of argue that that's weird because the opening from RSVP made him uncomfortable. He doesn't have as much minerals as normal. But still, it's just a little bit different than what we're used to. And now QXC is really trying to move in to see if he can punish his opponent.
He's got to be careful. I mean, even though the Reapers are not that useful later on in the game, losing all 4 of them would be pretty ugly. But the amount of mining time is already forcing his opponent to lose, and the amount of probes he's killing here as well is really, really nice. He's gonna lose that Reaper. Now it's probably about time to get out. But, no, I mean, he's turned this... Yeah, there we go. Now he's gonna get shut down. But he's turned this into something pretty cool. He's bringing a Widowmine forward, actually. It's slightly... oh, no, he's gonna eat it. There we go. That's gonna kill a Stalker immediately. Now there's Marines following this up. This is really crazy stuff, like nice aggressive play here by QXC. He's going to push forward with naked Marines with a Widowmine in support, thinking, yeah, I've done enough damage to slow down my opponent enough. The problem is there's going to be a photon overcharge.
It's so interesting, too, just because QXC doesn't have a medevac. Normally, this kind of poke comes with a medevac, but because of those early Reapers, he's not able to be as aggressive. The Widowmine gets a shot off anyways, although QXC does snipe the Observer, so now the Widowmine cannot be killed any longer. This is just such an interesting position that RSVP is probably not used to being in, because right now he has almost nothing. He's got he's got a couple Stalkers and a Mothership Core and an Observer to fight off this Marine Widowmine army. The first medevac's also going to be rallied in soon, too, to help transport it.
RSVP takes out the Widowmine, which is very, very good indeed, forcing QXC back. This kind of soft contain method here by QXC, which can snowball into something really nasty if it keeps going, because medevacs will be added into the mix. The thing is, this is the latest stim in human history, so we're going to see stim pack finishing like at about the 11-minute mark, which is crazy, crazy late. But it does give aggressive options, because as you said, such a small army from RSVP, so he can't really defend 2 places at once.
Ooh, RSVP is also sending his lone Observer to his opponent's base, at least towards it. He's going to have to recall it soon if he wants to deal with his Widowmine, unless he has some other planet to immediately kill it off. QXT is going to drop into the main while poking into the natural. How will RSVP respond?
Well, he's certainly not going to be able to photon overcharge. He has no actual energy to make that happen, so damage is definitely being done. QXC, of course, needs to focus, because otherwise he will lose those Marines to the Stalker. The attack in the natural has been pushed back now. The amount of economic damage that's been done... Oh, that was... This is the unfortunate problem with Widowmines. They have a tendency of doing that. This push isn't going to work either. QXC is going to be thrown back here, but the Widowmine actually kind of... Oh, he almost got the Stalker there. Killed off the chance of those Marines really doing too much more. But it has wasted so much mining time. It's ridiculous. Like, that is the damage that this drop has done.
Yeah, the implied damage from QXC has been quite massive. Although it's not like that harass came cheap.
No.
Nor will I actually think that it would be completely, or I don't think it's game-changing in the long run, because both players, interestingly enough, have gone for fast third bases in response. Which is, you can see QXC wanted to be really aggressive, get a large economic advantage, take the third, and outproduce his opponent. But I'm really intrigued by RSVP's decision amidst all the harass to say, I'm going to expand.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool when you think about it. With so much mining time lost, it's a great way to compensate if you also know that your opponent dedicated a lot to that attack, and you note, there's like, you know, where was the stim? Where's all these upgrades that you're supposed to have? The follow-up can't be that strong, right? And it's not. You know, it really isn't. There's an Immortal on the way here. There should be enough energy for a Photon Overcharge again. I wonder if QXC has smelled that there's a third base. He's actually angling around in that direction, so maybe.
Yeah, he's scanning, he sees the Observer, but I don't think he's going to be able to pick it off. Oh, he does.
Wow, I'm really surprised that QXC is engaging here, because he's being caught out of position and he's being surrounded. QXC's going to try and get out, but he's going to take a lot of damage here. It seems like, though, he actually had enough Marauders to really smash this. Maybe RSVP slightly overestimating his offensive capability there.
Yeah, now that the Photon Overcharge was used at the third, now QXC can push into the natural. There is an Immortal, but if QXC... Oh, he's going to back off. But at the same time, I can understand where he wanted to go with it. See if he can poke in and do anything in the natural, but the truth is he can't at the moment.
No, not right now. But RSVP is taking a lot of losses in this defense and is now behind in supply in a pretty significant fashion. The Immortal will definitely help, but the Colossus isn't on the field yet, and there is no extended thermal lance. Hellbats are now being added onto the mix. QXC, I think, is just going for a big power play right now, and I think he just wants to kill him before the Colossus count gets too high. Another drop comes in as well, and attempts to do damage. It's been shut down pretty effectively here by RSVP. Didn't get the scouting information on that Robo Bay either. Now QXC swings towards the third base.
Yeah, and this is where RSVP's biggest nightmare has been realized. He can't actually be everywhere. He doesn't have mobility, doesn't have charge or blink, or even a big force of AoE to immediately clear out units quickly. QXC can push into this third while dropping into the main base, but of course his double drop is not being paid attention to, trying to save as much as he can at the third base, but he does lose 1 medevac.
Got to be a little bit careful. If these drops don't end up being too effective, then RSVP will be right back into this because he's not that far behind in supply. And I think the Hellbats may very well be the game changer here, but it is really interesting to see that there's no Vikings on the field at all. QXC either doesn't know or doesn't care. He thinks that he's done enough damage to restrict the number of Colossi and slow down Thermal Lance. And he's right. He actually has like a 2-minute window now where he could hit with Hellbats, Marauder, and Marine, and the Colossus wouldn't do that well.
Well, it's interesting because I feel like RSVP is still in an interesting position because he's going to go for double robotics facility. Double Colossus is pretty effective against QXC's really, I guess, lackluster infrastructure to really fight against Colossus tech because he's been focusing so much on his army. He's even getting Ghost into his composition. I wonder if RSVP, if he can build a nice 4 to 5 Colossus count and just completely surprise QXC and overrun the Terran forces.
Yeah, any possibility of going for that power play whereby you attack without Vikings and you hit while there's about 2 Colossus without Thermal Lance is rapidly disappearing, and QXC I don't think is going to be able to hit that window. So you're absolutely right. If it ends up being double Colossi, which it looks like it is, I mean, he is adding on a Templar Archives, but double Colossi production would really catch his opponent completely off guard here. RSVP is actually building Observers right now because he only has 1, and also building a Warp Prism, which is unfortunate. You know, if he got 4 Colossus out and this army hit that, oh man, it would be like running a tiny little car into a giant stone wall.
That's a vivid analogy, and I couldn't agree more. It's just going to be really tough for him to break through his opponent, unless you're driving the bitter truck, in which case you're going to be just fine.
Well, I'll tell you, this is definitely not the bitter truck right now, and I don't know how much mileage QXC is going to get.
This is the Frodan Smart Car. This is what it is right now.
Yeah. The Frodan Smart Car, absolutely fantastic for getting into very narrow parking spots. Not so good against stone walls. Kind of
That's right, man. I'm more of a finesse. Ben's more of a power player. QXT is going to try to drop into this third base of RSVP, see if he can poke around and force the units out of position, maybe catch some units with EMPs if they're disorganized. And RSVP has to be a little cautious because this is a very hard spot to be in, but looks like he's paying close attention right now.
Goes to the front as well. Ugly position for QXC to be in. His Hellbats are stuck in the middle of that composition, which is not going to work out that well at all. But now the Zealots are charging to their fiery deaths, and RSVP's meat shield melts very, very quickly. There might be enough Colossus, though. The Viking count is definitely not large enough here. But the Stim comes forward. He tries to make his way around, picks off another Stalker. Down goes 1 Colossus, and QXC might just have enough to break this. It looks like he will, and is now able to take map control here. Immediately loads up and says, right, time to really throw down.
Yeah, there's really nothing in the main other than 1 cannon, 1 lone form of static defense, while QXC still can threaten a counterattack into the natural. RSVP trying to salvage the situation with a Dark Templar with Warp Ins to defend, but the supply counts is just so in favor of QXC. The Colossus is dropping, and even if QXC loses his entire army, he has a 4th base to fall back to. His production is so much better than RSVP because RSVP lost so many probes. The situation is looking so good for QXC.
Yeah, this drop is still in the base. There's really no way to stop it. DT's warped in. Again, I like the decision to use the DTs there, forcing scans out, but with 4 bases, it really doesn't matter that much. And QXC is